We appreciate everyone that's involved with this fight. The WBC is here. Pepe Suleiman is representing the WBC. Nancy Rodriguez. Tony Walker from HBO is sitting next to me. HBO is distributing the pay-per-view broadcast, and without their help, this event wouldn't be taking place. Rudy Hernandez is a trainer. Carlos Cuadras, everyone knows Rudy and his family locally here in LA, and then naturally Carlos Cuadras, former WBC super flyweight champion. He'll be training here in LA with Rudy, and it's just exciting to put. Once we announced the Chocolatito fight against Rungvisai, it was exciting to put Carlos Cuadras on the pay-per-view show because of the great performance he had. Even though he lost a decision to Chocolatito, everyone, I like to say, he stole the show at the Forum on HBO. It really was his coming out party. He had been a champion, but a lot of people didn't know who Carlos was, and with the announcement, we had a lot of excited people to see him back in the ring because of his exciting style, his great personality. He'll be fighting David Carmona, also from Mexico City. So that's a great matchup. And the WBC, Pepe might be able to go into a little more detail. The WBC just mandated that Carlos Cuadras, if he wins, then he'll be in the mandatory position. So the winner of Chocolatito versus Rungvisai will have to fight Carlos Cuadras in the next fight. And so HBO would be excited about putting Carlos back on the air. And as the third fight of this pay-per-view, it's exciting. I also wanted, since you all came here, I want to make the announcement also of the fourth fight. A lot of people have been asking who will be the first opening bout. It'll be Ryan Martin against Bryant Pee Wee Cruz. Bryant Cruz is local in New York. Ryan Martin is the current WBC Continental Americas champion, so he'll be defending his title. And Ryan Martin's undefeated at 17-0. Pee Wee Cruz is 17-1, so it's a great matchup between two exciting lightweights, young, exciting guys that will be a great way to open the broadcast. We just want to acknowledge Madison Square Garden and the role that they've played in hosting this great event. The last time Triple G fought at the Garden was against David Lemieux when he unified the title versus the IBF champion, and that was completely sold out. Right now, the ticket sales are ahead of where the Lemieux fight was, so we're expecting a sellout. We're expecting a tremendous weekend in New York, great energy in the arena. Top Rank is doing a St. Patrick's Day show on the Friday before, featuring Michael Conlon. The Boxing Writers Dinner is on a Thursday, so it's going to be a great weekend in New York City, and especially Saturday night at a sold-out Madison Square Garden, live on HBO pay-per-view. Triple G started his career on HBO September 2012. Without the HBO platform, he wouldn't be nearly where he is today, or as marketable as he's become. Naturally, he put on the exciting fights in the ring, but somebody had to broadcast them, and we have a terrific partner in HBO. So with that, I'd like to introduce Tony Walker to say a few words about the show.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Hello, everybody. Great to be here. Yes, we've been with Triple G since he came to the U.S., and it has been a great ride for us. Probably, obviously one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. A great personality, someone easy to sell. And whenever we do the pay-per-view shows, of course, we want to give a great night of boxing. We realize people have a lot of things they can spend $55 or $65 on. So giving them a good night of entertainment that they can enjoy with their friends and family is important. Triple G has been so dominant, his fights haven't ended, haven't taken very long, to happen. So having Carlos and Chocolatito on the cards really, I think, enhances the card and makes it appeal to a wider audience than what it would happen otherwise. We always try to do good undercards, but it's not often you get this level of fights on the undercard. World-class guys vying for titles, where the fights mean so much to them. And we'd like to welcome Carlos to the card and to HBO pay-per-view. And it's going to be a great night. All our distributors are very excited about the show and the undercard that they say does make a difference with people buying. So it's going to be a good night for us. And thanks to K2 and Tom for putting all this together. I know it's not easy. These guys have built their careers and demand, good paychecks. And we know that they're going to put on a good show, and I think it will be returned.
Thank you, Tony. It's, I have to also acknowledge Peter Nelson for having the foresight of putting on not only Triple G, but putting on Chocolatito, with the smaller divisions. These guys in the 112, 115 pound divisions, they put on some of the most exciting fights, and just because they're smaller in division or smaller in stature doesn't mean that they shouldn't have the exposure, especially here in the United States or internationally. So Peter saw the foresight of putting on a middleweight champion from Kazakhstan who didn't speak much English. He had the foresight of putting on Chocolatito, who never really was featured on prime television in the United States. He had the foresight of putting on Usyk, who was the cruiserweight champion. It was the first time, I think, in over 10 years, 15 years maybe, that HBO had shown a cruiserweight championship. And also featuring Carlos Cuadras from Mexico. So we really give him a lot of credit. And naturally, if you want to be a star in the sport, the fighters, it's only so much where we can make the fights, HBO can broadcast the fights, and then, the fans can buy tickets, but the fighters have to perform in the ring. And the fight last year between Carlos Cuadras and Chocolatito Gonzalez was one of the fights of the year. It won, in fact, the WBC Fight of the Year. And, it was a tremendous event. And again, that's where the personality of Carlos showed through. And an important part of his team. I want to acknowledge Nobu, who's here from Taiken Promotions. Mr. Honda of Taiken is Carlos's promoter, so we definitely want to acknowledge Mr. Honda and his role in allowing us to put these fights together. And this isn't, a lot of people aren't talking about David Carmona, but it's not like, it's an easy fight just to stay active until he gets a shot at the title again. David Carmona is also from Mexico City, has a great record, and is going to come to try to beat Carlos. So it's going to be a great matchup, and I'd like to introduce, as I mentioned, an important part of Carlos's team is Rudy Hernandez, who will be training Carlos to get ready for the fight. You want to say a few words, Rudy, about?
Yeah, make sure you guys buy the pay-per-view. It's going to be a great card. Really appreciate your sponsorships as well. So don't miss this great card. I mean, fireworks, March 18th, Madison Square Garden. So be there.
We have Tecate as a title sponsor, so you'll be able to
I'll get
indulge,
something
after the fight.
You get a 12-pack, Rudy.
I just want a 6. It'll make my wife happy. She won't look at other guys anymore.
So then, Carlos, if you want to say a few words, and then Rudy, will you be you'll be translating?
He speaks English.
Yeah, I understand. Don't worry.
Good. Okay.
My
Carlos.
English is very, very bad. I talking bad, so
But
I
you look very,
understand.
very
Don't
good,
worry.
so it's good.
I speak more Japanese. Estamos haciendo un buen trabajo siempre con Rudy. Siempre me enseña nuevas cosas. Puedo aprender nuevos pasos, así que eso los puedo aventar ahora para la otra pelea.
Okay, so
Y pues.
now in English.
In English.
See what I'll be doing in English.
For the next fight, you watch my new tips for boxing. No?
New tricks.
So.
My new tricks in boxing.
Ok, eso. Y pues espero que también Chocolate le gane a Rubizar porque la tiene difícil y yo me quiero enfrentar a él otra vez. Tengo que pasar primero a Carmona, hacer una buena pelea y yo creo que me tengo que lucir con con un buen knockout para que la gente pida más esa pelea con Chocolate. Y pues espero que si gana no le dé miedo.
He says that he hopes that both him and Gonzalez win so that they can have the rematch. Pretty much that's what he's saying. ¿No?
Ya,
You know?
mucho.
Rápido.
Y pues que estén pendientes ahora de esta pelea en el Madison. Estoy contento en el Madison. Así que pues esperen buenas cosas porque voy a dar una gran pelea este 18 y espero que no se raje el chocolate. Es todo.
I have to say that? He says, he'll be ready. He just hopes that that Gonzalez, if they're both to win, that he doesn't back out of this fight. It sounds a little nicer in English, but when you say que no se raje, that's like, damn, So, but
He have a scar.
he's scared.
He's scared.
He's scared.
I-
I don't think he's
I
scared.
have
I
one.
don't think he's scared. I think he respects him a little bit more. Ah, digo, no tiene mucho miedo, pero yo creo que te respeta un poquito más.
Yo creo que sí. Los ojitos de Chinito, yo creo que los va a recordar.
This will be Carlos's first fight in Madison Square Garden, where so many boxers dream of fighting, all the history at the Mecca of boxing. So we're excited to bring Carlos's talents and his excitement to the East Coast, to New York City, and to Madison Square Garden. We can probably open it up at this point to questions. Lance, you want to ask a question?
Carlos, when I saw you at the WBC convention in December, it seemed at that point like you thought that the fight with Gonzalez was going to happen, that maybe you guys were just haggling through some money. At the end of the day, do you think that he is sort of like not ducking you, but maybe dodging you to take on this mandatory fight instead of jumping back into what was a very tough fight?
¿Cómo fue?
Dice que cuando te vieron, cuando suben en la convención, y tú estabas más o menos con la idea de que ibas a pelear con el chocolate. Ahora, de repente cambia la cosa. ¿Tú crees que se está, no tanto que se esté bajando, pero que le esté buscando sacarle provecho?
Bueno, pues
Nada más al cinturón.
yo creo que sí, ¿no? Que Chocolate le quiso sacar brillo a su cinturón de una pelea más
You
porque
figure that he
sabe,
can get another payday out of the belt first, then he'd have to fight him.
porque sabe que en la otra lo va a noquear.
Because he believes that he believes that Gonzalez realizes that in the rematch he can't win. He's going to knock him out.
It seemed as if in the second half of the fight, you were coming on. Do you think that that's what's in his mind, the way you were fighting toward the second half of the fight, and the way he looked at the end of the fight?
Dice que todo parece indicar que después en la segunda mitad de la pelea ya ves escalar y empezás a imponer tu ritmo y tu golpe y todo, y se notó que después de la pelea ya era bien marcado. ¿Qué es lo que tiene en mente?
Pues,
Que es el recuerdo más que le queda.
pues sí, porque ya no le duele, ya no le queda el recuerdo, pero yo pienso que él sabe que la próxima pelea va al round 13 y que va a empezar desde el principio la guerra.
He says that he thinks that Gonzalez understands that the next time they meet, it'll be round 13, and he'll pick up where he left off.
Carlos, you and Chocolatito had such a great fight last September. And now you're both fighting on the same card. And obviously, of course, you're fighting David Carmona. But people are talking about that Chocolatito rematch because it was such a great fight. Now the WBC has mandated the two winners, March 18th, fight each other. How do you stay focused and not look past David Carmona in this fight?
Ya estoy enfocado, pero ahora la pregunta es, ¿cómo te enfocas más directamente en la pelea de Carmona y no ver más allá?
Bueno, pues es paso a paso,
Es step by step.
es paso a paso y pues ahorita el siguiente paso es Carmona y pues hay que trabajar para ganarle a Carmona.
Well, the next step is Carmona, and he's got to work to beat Carmona.
Y pues después lo que venga.
And then after that, whatever comes next.
Rudy, can you ask them, since they're both from Mexico City, is there any rivalry, since they're both the same division? between Carmona
hay
and-
rivalidad entre tú y Carmona, siendo que son de México los dos.
Pues no, solamente lo he visto pelear un par de veces, pero
He's only seen him fight a couple of times.
lo conozco, es de la ciudad, lo he visto en varios eventos.
He's met him before. He's seen him in a couple of events, and also at our training camp when we were out there.
Pero pues en realidad no lo conozco mucho, no hay rivalidad, pero
There's no rivalry between them.
deje que venga y le eche un poquito de chivo.
We can make it right.
He'll make it happen. Yeah, he'll make it
Algo le ha
happen.
de ya.
Sí.
Carlos, I'm interested to know what the reaction was from the fans back home in Mexico when you returned home from the Chocolatito fight.
¿Cómo fue la reacción de la gente en México cuando volviste después de la pelea?
Oh, pues en el aeropuerto me recibieron mucha gente muy bien. No sé, yo me sorprendí, me recibieron como si yo hubiera ganado.
Because when he came back to Mexico, when he was at the airport, there was a lot of people there at the airport waiting for him, and he was really surprised. He felt like he had won upon his arrival, he felt like he had been the winner because everyone was there to see greet him.
And is he over the loss? Like, did it take a while for him to get over it, if he is?
¿Ya? ¿La derrota quedó en el pasado o todavía las siguientes?
No, pues tengo la espinita
It still hurts a little, but
ahí clavada, así que la tengo que sacar.
I think I can answer that better than him before. Yo creo que yo lo puedo contestar eso mejor que tú.
Ok.
Go ahead.
Carlos lives the moment. Like it's like the next 30, 40 seconds, whatever it is, he just is that moment, right? Once it's over, yeah, it bothers him. It's still there. It's not going to go away, right? But it's like he's thinking about what's next. It's not so much about what happened yesterday is already happened. He's not looking at that. He's moving on.
Ya, pues ya pasó.
Yeah, he just don't. He cares on getting it back. That's it.
As his trainer, what did you say to him after the fight, since the fight was so close? How did you
In
get
the
him-
ring,
Yeah.
it was, as soon as they announced him the winner, I told him, let's go. And he says, yeah, I got robbed. I go, no, you didn't. You didn't get robbed. It was just it was a close decision. It could have gone either way. We walked out, and there was no reason to be up in that ring anymore. And I felt it was, it's just a matter of opinions. Like Tom said earlier, we lost, and I almost said, well, it's just a matter of opinions, because at the end of the day, it's like if you get like 6 people, you get 2, 2, and 2. Two in favor, 2 against, and 2 a draw. So it was that close of a fight, and I think it could have gone either way. I personally thought it was a draw, but at the end of the day, it's like we move on, and we'll make it right the next time. And I told him, if you fight him again, you have to knock him out. I told him, I don't care if you win 11 out of 12 rounds, and they announce a decision that you won, you get that belt and you take it back to him and give it back to him because you don't deserve it. You have to knock him out. And he goes, yeah, but if I win 11 rounds out of 12, I should be champion. I go, no, it doesn't count because you didn't knock him out. And the bottom line is that you have to knock him out. And I really believe that he has everything to make that happen.
Usually trainers aren't as honest as you just put it to your fighter. Talk to me a little bit about that, because you hear a lot of trainers, they will just go, no, you won, or would it be that upfront or honest with your fighter?
Once a decision has been rendered, I mean, how many times have you heard them go back and, announce that, well, there was a mistake? I know sometimes, the scorecards or somebody tested positive for something, but on fights like this, man, it's like, they could have gone either way. It's like, and just be honest, you can't, like you say, you can't cry over spilled milk, right? I mean, it is what it is. Now we move on.
Rudy, have you guys watched that fight with Chocolatito and looked over the footage and seen anything in there that you could learn from? Seen any nuances that you could take advantage of in the rematch going forward?
It's for him, it's going to be more about confidence. He's already he's confident enough to know that he's there, right there with him, and if not, but he has to prove that point by knocking him out in the rematch. That's why it's important that he believes, and by him stating that round 13 comes up, he's already on that mode, and so I like that, our chances there.
Thank you.
How does your honesty, well, I guess the question would be to Carlos, but how does your honesty as a trainer help him be a better fighter?
Well, he knows I'm not full of crap, or I'm bullshitting him, you know.
Some, as Mark was saying, some are not as honest as you, but help him get over that loss that he had.
I'm not a yes man. Bottom line, that's what it comes down to. I'm brutally honest, as I see fit. You know, I mean, we may have a difference of opinions, but at the end of the day, it's like he knows what he gets. You know, at the end, it's if I'm honest with him and he feels it and it's sincere, then you know, we can have this discussion or conversation. You know, but if he's looking for somebody who just rub his back and say, yeah, what a nice guy, you know, like, I don't help him that. I can't help him. Me personally can't help him. There's a bunch of other trainers out there that I don't care how high, you know, the level that they are in, they tend to cater to the fighters. I'm not that guy. There's a purpose. When that bell rings and the guy's trying to knock your head off, it ain't funny. It's not a joke either. You know, and so I take this very seriously.
Carlos, how do you take to him being really honest with you about how he felt he saw the fight that night?
Que se me decía la verdad. ¿Cuándo?
Dice que él quiere saber cómo tú te sientes cuando yo te hablo y pues que ya ves que yo te hablo honestamente como yo siento, entonces, ¿cómo te sientes tú?
Oh, sí, yo siento que Rudy siempre es como bien honesto conmigo. Aunque haya trabajado con el chocolate, no creo que voltee la bandera, pero yo siempre he confiado en él y creo que hemos trabajado bien desde que empecé a trabajar.
Okay, so he says that since we've been working together, he likes my honesty and he appreciates it because at the end of the day, it's you know, he's comfortable with it.
On the mandatory, Carlos, do you think that for sure Roman will now adhere to that, and if he wins and you win, that he will take that fight? And Tom, same question for you.
Dice que bueno, ahora que si gana González, si ganas tú, entonces ya la revancha ya se, ¿tú crees que el chocolatito va a pelear contigo?
Pues yo espero que sí. Yo espero, es lo que más quiero.
He hopes that that's what happens because that's what he wants the most.
Convéncelo.
He's just convinced him. He's like, hey, convince him. He's telling Tom, convince Gonzalez to fight him.
I think, Lance, to answer your question, I mean, really, you have to ask Chocotito about that, but from my understanding was Chocotito...
Why do we have to ask him?
Well,
Why can't we tell him?
but, no,
Okay, go ahead.
he inherited the obligation that Carlos had as a mandatory for Rung Vasai. And, you know, everything that I'm hearing about Rung Vasai, he's a big puncher, and I think Carlos even said it, that it's not an easy fight for Chocotito. So it's not like he chose an easier fight instead of Cuadras. My feeling is that, you know, he had the option of either he had to do the mandatory, and his only other option would have been to do the rematch with Carlos. That's what the WBC had ordered. So I believe he wanted to make the rematch bigger, fight Rung Vasai, and then it would make it bigger with Carlos being on the same show. I think that's how it worked out. But, you know, I think with Chocotito having won 4 titles in 4 different divisions, being undefeated at 46-0, you know, it's hard to question his character or his courage, and I think he'd be looking forward to, if he's successful in March, you know, to defending the title.
How did his power feel? ¿Cómo sentiste su poder del power?
De chocolate. Pues fíjate que no tiene esa pegada tan fulminante como en peso mini mosca, a lo mejor pegaba más duro. Tiene una pegada respetable porque pues tampoco son caricias, ¿verdad? Pero sí, yo siento que no tiene la pegada tan fuerte como la tiene Rubisai. Rubisai yo siento que pega más duro y y por eso es peligroso para el Chocolate. Tiene menos defensa y es más lento, pero yo espero que gane el Chocolate. Yo quiero que gane el Chocolate porque Rubisay no siento que sea una pelea tan atractiva para la gente aquí en Estados Unidos. A Chocolate ya lo conocen más. Esta pelea me va a dar a conocer un poco más aquí en Estados Unidos, en HBO, y pues yo espero que sí gane y que ya no ande dando la vuelta otra vez.
¿Cómo te sientes que ya estás de nuevo de regreso aquí con HBO y que estás aquí con la prensa en los Estados Unidos?
Bueno, pues la última pelea también fue aquí. Ahora me siento un poquito más pues más desenvuelto, que ya conozco más a la gente me conoce un poquito más, y creo que eso también es bueno para que pues suba el rating, ¿no? que la gente nos pueda conocer y podamos pues tener mejores bolsas y mejores oportunidades después.
Carlos, muchos consideran a Chocolatito que sea el número 1 libra por libra. ¿Tú estás de acuerdo con eso o ves a alguien más que sea el número 1? I just asked him if he agrees that Chocolatito is number 1 pound for pound.
No, pues yo creo que sí, el Chocolatito sí es el mejor libra por libra, pues a mí me pone en una posición mucho mejor, ¿no? Yo creo que puedo darle pelea a cualquiera, ¿no? Y pues si le di pelea al mejor libra por libra, pues creo que le puedo dar a cualquiera.
Carlos, ¿cómo te sientes debutar en un pago por evento? Que es una gran vitrina para tu carrera.
Bueno, pues dice que hay un bonus por el pay-per-view, entonces entonces pues a todo dar, contento.
The one you had already had those, but this one was, we just asked him, how does it feel to be, for him to debut on a pay-per-view card? And then he was asking about, how does he feel like Gonzalez, a lot of people rank him as like the number 1 pound for pound. He felt like he deserves that spot.
Carlos, what do you think about becoming more famous in the United States? A year ago, not many people knew you in the U.S., and now you're fighting on pay-per-view in Madison Square Garden. Was that your goal always in your career, to become known all over the world?
¿Cómo? Ha sido, bueno, ahora que vas a volver a pelear aquí en Estados Unidos, ¿te imaginabas algún día ser bien reconocido mundialmente?
Oh, pues,
¿Vas a ver que Estados Unidos?
Bueno, pues ese es el sueño de todo peleador, que lo conozcan en todo el mundo, ser campeón del mundo, y
It's every fighter's dream to be known worldwide.
pues yo creo que estamos ahí haciendo caminito por ahí.
He's on his way.
You saw Chocolatito in Florida at the WBC convention. You asked him if he had any sort of interaction with them and if he asked them directly for the rematch.
¿Viste al Chocolatito allá en Florida? Y ¿hablaste con él o platicaste con él?
No, pues muy poco, ya ve que no hablo mucho el Chocolate. Solamente los momentos que pudimos platicar, fue así de hey, pues la gente quiere esa pelea, hay que hacerla. Y solamente fue sí, vamos a ver lo que dice el señor Honda. Bueno, ok.
You understood that, so was it? He said that the few times that he did see Gonzalez, it was pretty much like, hey, people want to see that fight again. He goes, wow, well, yeah, we'll see what Mr. Honda says, and we'll just take it from there. And then he goes and asked him if he had spoken to him or if they had talked, and he said, well, Gonzalez doesn't talk much, so he couldn't get much out of him.
Just going back to the overall show as a recap, when you have an undefeated fighter like Triple G, what he's accomplished in the main event, defending, this is a WBA mandatory fight against Danny Jacobs, who's himself one of the biggest knockout punchers in the sport. You have Chocolatito Gonzalez versus Rungvisai. This is probably the highest profile fight for a Thai fighter, a fighter out, from Thailand, in a long time, challenging the #1 pound-for-pound fighter for the WBC 115-pound championship at Madison Square Garden on HBO pay-per-view. It's got a little bit of something for everyone. Chocolatito from Nicaragua, recognized as the #1 pound-for-pound. You have Carlos against Carmona. You have Ryan Martin from Chattanooga, Tennessee, training in Cleveland against Pee Wee Cruz. So it's really a special card that we try to put together that provides something for everyone, provides a lot of entertainment. All the matchups, not just the names, all the matchups are great matchups. And really the only local fighters are Danny Jacobs and Pee Wee Cruz that live in the New York area. And so it's really going to have a great international flavor, as most of Triple G shows do. So we're glad to have had this media conference. I think after everyone is finished eating, we can go into some one-on-one interviews with anyone sitting up here. If anyone has any other questions, we can answer them through the lunch.
Just a quick update on what you've heard from Abel on how Golovkin's training is going up in Big Bear.
Says he's training in snowshoes up there. He's running in the snow. There's a great photo that Abel took where the snow has just covered all the trees and it's snowing, and you just see him, in his jacket running down the middle of the road. I was up there last week before the show in Indio, and Abel said it's the most snow he's ever seen in Big Bear. But that's what champions are made of. They'll train in any conditions, and Gennady just feels comfortable up there, regardless of the climate or the temperature. And
That's like his backyard.
he pushes
Even at home. Even at home.
everyone else that's training up there. He's pushing them as well.
Así en su casa también.
Yeah.
Siente en casa.
The remainder of his camp's going to be here, right? Cuadras?
Huh?
The remainder of his camp's going to be here?
Yes.
Yeah. So he's already done with the mountains over there?
¿Aquí vas a entrenar?
Aquí no, en Maywood.
And maybe we'll
Aquí no hay costales,
And I can also announce a few of the events coming up on the schedule leading up to the fight. Is Danny Jacobs is going to have an open workout at his gym, at Virgil Hunter's gym up in Oakland. That'll be February 13th. That's a Monday, February 13th. We'll have a media day here in LA where Triple G is going to come down with Abel. Rudy's going to be there with Carlos. That's scheduled right now for February 28th. That's a Tuesday, and it should be in the Wildcard West gym where we've had those open workouts for Gennady before. And then Fight Week's going to start early. We're going to have the main event press conference on Monday with Triple G and Jacobs. Then we're going to have the media training on Tuesday with all the championship fighters for the media training, and then the undercard press conference will be on Wednesday. So it'll be an early start to the fight week just to get out and get the media attention starting. We have named the card Middleweight Madness in lieu of the NCAA tournament, March Madness that's going on. And naturally, as I mentioned before, St. Patrick's Day weekend in New York will be a tremendous weekend. So we appreciate all your support. The great thing about this show is just not only the fighters in great matchups, but the fighters actually willing to go and promote the fight. Because one thing to put on great fights, but if nobody sees them, it's a completely different story. So Triple G has always been great marketing. Danny Jacobs has been fabulous with giving interviews, social media. You see Carlos here is taking time out from his training. They actually had sparring set up for today to do this event, and it's one of those things where everyone is on board marketing this fight, and I think it'll be whoever buys the pay-per-view, whoever buys a ticket to MSG will definitely get their money's worth on March 18th.